case has been closed. We have no more need for the evidence.
Okay.
And any items not contraband, maybe
Release
to,
patent or something.
well, just say to, I think it just stops there, and then its burden is on the person to say, this is my stuff.
There one person might agree to come back to order.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Okay. Got one on the road.
Y'all have phones on for a moment. Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Joe, Cory is outside, please. Okay, you ready?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, please be seated.
Detective Mayo, you said you've been a detective since 2009, right? Well,
Yes,
no,
ma'am.
you've been with the sex crime unit since 2009.
Sex crimes unit since 2009. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And what did you review to prepare for trial today?
Recordings, paperwork, supplements, things of that nature.
Okay. Would you say everything was thorough? Everything's thorough, all your supplemental reports, everything's complete?
As far as I know, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there's nothing you would say is inaccurate or not complete?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I'm going to take you to June 26th, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Notes are transferred to supplements later.
Okay. And so they're transferred to supplements and then you destroy your notes?
Yes.
Okay. Because all of the information can be found in the supplement reports?
Yes, usually.
Okay. After viewing surveillance in August, was she still dumbfounded and confused?
No.
Okay. Now, June 26th, you requested her to do a rape exam?
Yes, it was offered to her, correct.
And at first she was hesitant to do it?
That's correct.
And this would be a point in time when you still felt she was dumbfounded and confused?
At times, yes.
Okay. And you asked her for her clothing on this same day, June
Yes.
26th?
Later in the night, that's correct.
Later that day?
Yeah, after the rape exam was performed.
After it was performed, okay. And you followed her to her home to get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. She gave you 2 pairs of underwear and... Well, she gave you 2 pairs of underwear?
Yes, along
Okay.
with the black top and black bottoms.
Along with a black mini skirt and a black blouse?
Yeah, I don't know what you want to call them, but it was bottoms and a top, and they were
Okay.
both black.
Now, you gave her 1 bag to do this, to put everything in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't direct her to separate the clothing or anything
No, ma'am.
into different bags?
No, ma'am.
And you previously testified that you were careful not to contaminate the clothes you received from her, right?
With my DNA, correct.
Okay, with your DNA. And I believe you stated you sealed them in a brown paper bag as per protocol?
Yes.
Okay, and that is the protocol with your department?
Yes, that's correct.
And you've been doing that since 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
Seal all the clothes in 1 bag?
Not all the times, no.
Okay. You work closely with TBI, obviously. With TBI, with the unit that you give the clothes to?
I don't personally, they get them
Okay.
through the property room. I don't personally give them the,
And is that what you're taught, the protocol, to put everything in that 1 bag?
at that time, yes.
Okay. Could that cause cross-contamination with everything being in 1 bag?
Your Honor, I'm looking at, I believe that would be out of his area, that's
It
He-
is sustained.
Do you know how the TBI forensic scientists would prefer to receive the clothing?
And Your Honor.
And he can say yes or no, Your Honor, to that.
Well, go ahead.
No, I've never spoken to a TBI forensics
You've never spoken to a TBI forensic scientist?
directly about packaging evidence.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
I want to talk about what you did after you received those results. You didn't go and collect any other swabs from anyone else, did you?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And at that point in time, when you received the results, you had already viewed all of surveillance, right?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned collecting Miss Lee. Would that be the date that you received her bra?
It could be. I don't remember. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Why did you wait so long to get that bra?
I believe she was confused as to which one it really was and where it was in her apartment.
What made that bra relevant?
She was wearing it.
She was wearing it on the day?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if you had received the results from the private lab
They're in the
at that
case.
time?
At that time?
Uh-huh. When you,
Probably not, but I
Okay.
don't remember. I'd have to see dates and things of that nature.
what else did you do on June 26th
As far as when?
outside of talking with Miss Lackey?
She was escorted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where I arranged for the rape exam to be done.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I followed her to her apartment, and got the clothing,
Mm-hmm.
and bagged it, sealed it. Later, I turned those 2 items into the property room.
Okay.
The 27th,
June 27th.
correct.
And on June 27th, did you see Miss Lackey coming down the hallway with a towel around her waist? in surveillance?
No, I don't believe I saw that one. We saw some of the initial ones. We obviously didn't have time to sit and view all of them that day, but eventually, yes.
Eventually you saw that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, that would be correct.
And you don't know exactly what date that was, eventually, just eventually?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Through the investigation, correct.
And when you eventually saw that, you saw her go to the restroom
Yes,
in their
ma'am.
surveillance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You saw her drink water?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you see her stand at Mr. Bernstein's door?
Yes.
Okay. All around 4 a.m.?
I don't remember the timestamps, but I do remember seeing what you just described in surveillance video.
Okay. And did she have memory of any of that?
No.
Okay. But on June 27th, I'm sure you saw the surveillance of her being carried in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I believe you previously testified that her arm was draped around Mr. Vandenburg's shoulder.
No, I don't believe I've ever testified
And
to
y'all
that
don't object to
today.
counsel shaking his head when the witness looks this way.
Your Honor, that's just,
That just happened.
Well,
it's like she's asking a question that he didn't testify to.
Well, you can't.
he was just shaking his head, and that didn't happen.
1 second, please. Your Honor, I would like to refresh the witness's recollection. Go to the right.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Pardon me. During your investigation, did you or did you not attempt to identify certain individuals who appeared in those video clips?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you do that by yourself or have other people assisting? Or?
I was assisted mainly through Vanderbilt University Police Department. Lieutenant Harville was very instrumental in helping us identify the people that were seen in those videos.
Okay. Were you able to get a positive identification of every single person who appeared in the videos?
No, sir. Unfortunately, no, we were not.
Okay. Were there, though, individuals that you were able to identify and become persons of interest?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. And did you attempt to obtain electronic devices from any or all of those individuals?
Yes, sir. Certain individuals I did, yes.
Let's do just one at a time to keep them straight. Detective, you've been handed a smaller item in a brown packaging. Could you take a look at that and see if you can recognize what is contained in that envelope?
I do. This is a cell phone that belonged to Jaborian McKenzie, and his name is J. Tip McKenzie is written on the package. I wrote on here from person because I actually seized it from his person. The unlock code for his phone is written on here, the description, which is an iPhone, and the case complaint number.
yesterday?
Well, Your Honor, it actually does, and as you know, there is open cross in the state of Tennessee, as you've well stated before, and I am merely asking him about the surveillance that he has watched and he has previously testified about. If his testimony stays consistent, there's no problem. He testifies to what he saw, and we move on.
Then perhaps my question might be, Detective Mayo, in reviewing the surveillance video, did you see it?
All right, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit earlier, an objection was raised to one of the buccal swabs that was collected by Detective Shreve. As such, I marked it for identification only. That objection has since been withdrawn. So that buccal swab will be part of the collected exhibit number 15. All right? All right, proceed.
Detective Mayo, you've reviewed the surveillance in this from June 23rd, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in your review of that evidence, did you find that raped around Brandon Vandenburg's shoulder?
At one point, I believe it was.
Okay. Thank you. You didn't see any phone or anything in her hands, did you?
Not that I remember, no, ma'am.
Okay. But she did make a call to Mr. Bernstein early in the morning.
I would have to review her records to properly answer that question.
Okay. Do you know how she got her phone?
No, it was in the room when she woke up,
Okay.
according to her.
But you never saw it in the surveillance anywhere or anything of that nature?
No, I don't remember seeing it
Okay.
in surveillance.
I'm going to talk to you about June 27, 2013, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, from surveillance, you saw you saw Mr. Vandenburg, you saw Mr. Batey, you saw Mr. Banks, you saw Mr. McKenzie, and you wanted to interview them, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you arranged to do so through the Vanderbilt Police Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And at this point in time, you did not know if a sexual assault had occurred or not.
Definitively no.
Okay. Because there was no sexual assault or anything shown on surveillance yet. Oh, that was ever shown on surveillance, right?
No, not from the house, no.
Okay. And on June 27th, you had not seen any other videos, had you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So at this point in time, they're only people of interest and not suspects.
That would be a fair statement, yes.
Okay. Now, the interviews, you ended up interviewing Mr. Batey and Mr. McKenzie, Banks, and Vandenburg
Yes, ma'am, I did.
on June 27th.
That is correct.
Okay. And they were recorded.
That is correct.
Okay. And during the interview, did you receive their cell phones?
I received Mr. Vandenberg's phone and Mr. Banks's phone.
On June 27th.
Yes, ma'am, that would be correct.
Okay. And when did you receive Mr. Batey's phone?
On the 28th.
On the 28th?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
At his, outside, in the hallway of his dorm room from his person.
Okay. And that was the day you had the search warrant?
That would be correct.
Okay. And you only received it because of the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Who else did you interview on the 27th?
Matt Prelude?
And did you interview Mr. Vanderwall, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Redder, and Mr. Woods on that day too?
No, ma'am.
You didn't? Okay. Did you ever interview them?
I did.
Okay. When?
There were some done on July 1st, and I don't remember. I know Mr. Boyd and Mr. Carter Samuels were first.
Okay.
Mr. Vanderwall may have been that day, but I'd have to reflect
Okay.
to say for sure.
And did you ever determine why they came to room 213?
Who?
Mr. Vanderwall, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Redder, Mr. Woods?
Your Honor, I would object to that. That would call for speculation, if not hearsay.
Well, I'm sorry. I was asking merely, did he ever determine why, not pretty much calling him to speculate on why they came, just if he ever determined it, yes or no?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did.
You did determine why? Okay. And in the surveillance that you reviewed, you did see Mr. Vanderwall, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Redder, Mr. Woods on the phone in East Hall
At different times, yes.
at different times?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, correct.
And then you did see them go to Gillette Hall at some point in time?
Correct.
Okay. And you saw Mr. Vandenburg go down and let them in?
Correct.
Okay. And then on surveillance, it did show them going to room 213 with Mr. Vandenburg?
Shows I'm going around the corner towards his room.
Going around the corner towards 213?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And then you also saw all of them leave the room, including Matt Prelude?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on June 27th, this is also the day you went to Mr. Vandenberg's room, right?
That's correct.
And you went without search warrant?
That's correct.
And you went with the intent to gain consent?
That is correct.
Okay. And you didn't already have that consent, you just went and kind of got it from him there?
I went over the form. We have a standard consent form. I went over that form with Mr. Vandenberg and Mr. Prelude, since they were the two occupants of that room.
Right.
And gained consent from each person.
Oh, so when they came and interviewed on the 27th, you gave them the consent form then?
No, it was at a different time, in the same day.
Okay. It was later that day.
That would be correct.
And you didn't take anything on that day, right? From their room?
Personally, no, I did not take anything from that room that day.
Okay, nothing was collected on that day?
Not by me from that room that day.
Okay, who did you go to the room with on that day?
I went to the room with Sergeant Shreve and Lieutenant Harville. ID technicians were later called to the room.
On June 27th?
That would be correct.
Okay. And the ID collected different things?
They did.
Okay. At your direction?
They collected evidence from the room, correct.
Okay. At your direction?
I asked them to go into the room. I explained what I was looking for. They collected what they thought would be the best evidence.
Okay. Perfect. Now, on June 27th, did you ever go and knock on Mr. Batey's door?
No.
You never tried to talk to anyone in that room?
In whose room?
Upstairs on the 6th floor, Mr. Batey, his room?
I did not go to his room that day.
Okay. Did you go to the 6th floor at all?
Not that day, no ma'am.
Not that day? Was there a reason you didn't want to gain consent from Mr. Batey to search his room too?
I had no indication I needed to search his room that day for evidence of a crime that day.
But the next day you went and took a search warrant out for his room?
To collect electronic evidence, such as cell phones, correct.
But you didn't want to see if you could get consent to do it the day before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Fair enough. Now I want to talk to you about the swabs that you took from the different people you interviewed with. Now you received buccal swabs from Mr. Batey that day.
Which day?
On June 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I believe you went through all the list of other people on the rec who you got that from. You also got swabs from, you stated you got swabs from Mr. Boyd, Mr. Vanderwall, Mr. Retta, Mr. Prelu, Mr. Batey, Mr. Banks, Mr. McKenzie, and Mr. Vandenburg, right?
They were collected at different times, correct?
They were not all collected on June 27th?
No, ma'am.
Okay. But at different times, all of those people's swabs were collected.
Some were collected that day, some different days, correct?
Okay. And who determines which swabs need to be collected?
As far as what?
Well, when you're doing an investigation, as you've been doing since 2009, who makes the determination that who do you get a swab from? Who makes that?
I do.
You make that determination? Okay.
Usually, yes.
And you determined you did not need buccal swabs from Mr. Bernstein?
Not that day, no.
Okay. And Mr. Bernstein lives in room 214?
Yes.
And so after watching surveillance and seeing Miss Lackey go to his room, you still decided you didn't need his swabs?
No.
Okay.
Your Honor, object, we were getting 412, and they need to have the jury out here if there's any further questions along this line.
Okay.
And, Your Honor, I have not yet gotten into 412, and I was not going to.
All right.
Why did you decide not to get Mr. Bernstein's swabs?
Your Honor, that's exactly what the objection is about.
Well,
Sustained.
okay.
Ask for jury out.
Yes.
All right. Well, we don't need a jury out. We can wait back.
All right, another jury out. It appears that this time, instead of removing the jury is elected.
Detective Mayo, I want to get into the search warrant that you obtained on the 28th of June. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back one. When you went in Mr. Vandenberg's room on June 27th, and did you take pictures yourself on that day?
No, ma'am.
You didn't take any pictures yourself?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You got the search warrant on June 28th
I did.
and went back to Mr. Vandenberg's room?
Several rooms, yes.
Several rooms, okay. Of them being Mr. Vandenberg's room?
Correct.
Okay. And you took pictures yourself on that day?
I did.
What did you use to take pictures?
A camera
What kind? Is it your camera? Is it a phone?
belongs to the police department.
Okay. Did it have a date stamp or time stamp on those pictures that you took?
I may have, I believe so.
And would those pictures be the ones that are in evidence today?
That's correct.
Okay. The one of the floor of Mr. Vandenburg's room that we
Yes.
saw? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll put those back up there. I don't believe they have a stamp. Can we put up the picture of, and not, and I'll, is it, which pictures? It, 8A through D. We'll start with A.
You understand?
Can I be on the screen since they're already admitted to evidence?
Screen over there.
Okay, yeah, I'll put them on the screen right here since they're already in evidence. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Turn
You got
it
that.
upside down.
Okay. Make it smaller. Make it smaller so they can see the, okay, that's good. Is that okay? It's a light. It's a glare on it. I think you can kind of get that glare off some.
No, that may be being picture.
No, it's not. It's good. Oh, pull it down. There it is. That's better. That's better. Okay. Did you take this picture, Mr. Detective Mayo?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no date stamp or time stamp on that one.
Doesn't appear to be.
Okay. And I'm going to show you 8B. Is this the original? Now, is this the original pictures? Are these the original pictures, Detective Mayo?
They appear to be.
Okay. Detective Mayo, did you ever find out the size of the room or anything of that nature? Do you know?
No.
You don't know? Okay. And so, and I had a question about the room here. You said on direct that this was directly inside the door. You took this picture yourself, right?
Just inside the threshold. Yes.
Okay. And so was the door open when you took the picture? Or what, did you close it or?
I don't know.
Okay, but you were right inside the threshold, like right, I'm just trying to see if the room is that small.
Well, it's a little wider over here to the left, but
Okay.
the wall runs right behind that this cabinet right here.
Okay. And there's no date stamp or time stamp on this, is it?
Doesn't appear to.
Okay. And I'm going to show you another picture, which is 8C, and I think we can actually see the wall in this one. And that wall you were talking about, is that kind of back there behind that pillow? Directly behind there? Is that the...
There's a wall over here.
Right. So from wall to wall, that's about how big that room is?
Sure.
Okay. And there's no date or time stamp on that as well?
It doesn't appear to.
Okay. Thank you. Is it normal for you to take pictures yourself, or does ID usually do it?
When?
When you go to a room of that nature, or when you go to a scene, do you normally take the pictures, or does ID usually take the pictures?
It depends on the situation.
Okay. Well, when ID takes the pic, is there a date stamp and a time stamp on it?
I don't operate their cameras.
Okay. Do you believe it's important to have a time stamp, date stamp?
Can be certain instances, I guess it could be, sure.
In certain instances?
Sure.
Now, after you left Mr. Vandenburg's room with ID
Which day?
on the 28th when you had search warrants,
ID wasn't present. on
the ID
28th.
wasn't present on the 28th.
No.
Okay. Who was present on the 28th?
There were several different investigators from the Vanderbilt Police Department, several different investigators from the Metro Police Department,
Okay.
myself.
Which room did you go to after you left Mr. Vandenberg's room?
I don't remember which order. There were 3 different rooms we had to go to.
Okay. And at some point in time, you went to Mr. Batey's room.
Correct.
May I have exhibits 13A and B? I'm going to put them up on the screen. Thank you. Detective Mayo, this is what was previously marked 13A. Is this a picture you took?
Yes.
Okay. And you stated on direct that you believe that that watch was the same watch in surveillance?
I said it appeared to be
It appeared to be?
similar to the type that I saw.
Okay. And what about the other watch? Do you know who watch that is, or?
No clue.
Do you know who, did Mr. Batey have a roommate?
Yes.
Do you know, so you don't know which of this stuff is Mr. Batey's or his roommates, or do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. And I'm going to go to 13B. And just for the record, there's no time stamp or date stamp on there either, on this picture that you took?
No, I believe you asked me that. No, there's not.
I did? Okay. And there's a glare, and so if you would like me to hand this to you to see it better, I will.
His screen looks fine.
It looks okay. Now, this watch shows the numbers 627 on that. Do you see that?
No.
You don't see that anywhere on there?
I don't see 627. It appears to be 957 to me.
Okay, so
31.
what does it say above?
That's the only numbers I can see.
Okay, and I'd like to actually hand you the actual one to see if you can see better. Can you see better? In
Yes.
that picture you have?
Yes.
What are those numbers above the 957?
627.
Okay. That's fine. Now, on direct, you stated that you had the search warrant signed at around 8 p.m., right?
I believe I stated 7 p.m.
If the search warrant reflects 8:07 p.m., would you agree that was correct?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact time.
Okay. And on direct,
Which date are we talking about?
Yeah.
June 28th.
Okay.
We're still on June 28th.
Well, we've been going back and forth.
Okay. Now, on direct, you stated that you executed the search warrant around 9 or 10 p.m.
I believe, I don't remember the exact times, but I believe that's correct.
Okay. And we can agree that the time on this watch shows 9:57 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Would that be around the time that you executed the search warrants?
Sure.
Okay. And the date shows June 27th.
The numbers above 957 or 627.
Or 627,
Yes, ma'am.
which we could believe means June 27th.
Sure.
Okay. And do you believe that's incorrect?
Yes.
Okay. And since you never collected the watch, there's no way for us to determine that now, right?
Okay.
You can agree to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if that watch is correct, that would mean that you went in a day earlier than your search warrant?
The watch is incorrect.
Okay. And if it's correct, that means you went in earlier than your search warrant?
The watch is incorrect.
Okay. You're not answering the question that I asked you?
Repeat your question, please.
If the watch is correct, that means you went in a day earlier than your search warrant.
If that watch would be correct, yes.
That's what that would
But it is incorrect.
And again, we can't determine that at this time.
Well, I can state that I went into his room on that date.
Okay. And if you went into his room too early, that means anything you found could be suppressed?
Correct, but I didn't.
Okay. But that would be one of the important reasons of having a timestamp and a date stamp?
Not necessarily. There were other people present.
Okay. I want to talk to you about your other interviews. I'm sorry. You interviewed Mr. Jaborian McKenzie
Yes, ma'am.
3 different times.
I believe that's correct.
One on the 27th of June,
Yes, ma'am.
once on the July 17th,
I believe so.
once on September 19th.
I believe so.
Was his story consistent each time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I want to also talk to you now about on June 27th. We're back to June 27th. When Metro Nashville Police Department, the ID department came with you after you gained consent, right, to go in Mr. Vandenburg's room. You never instructed them to process Mac Prelude's bunk?
No.
Okay. And you previously testified you saw him exit the room on surveillance along with Vanderwall, Woods, Retta.
Yes, I testified I saw those people in surveillance. Correct.
And that was after everyone else had exited?
I don't know who you're referring to.
After Vandenburg, Woods, Retta, and then Mac Prelude comes out, right?
At some point, yes.
Okay. Why did you feel it wasn't relevant to process his bunk?
The information I had at the time led me to believe that this crime occurred in the floor of the room, and eventually she was in Mr. Vandenberg's bed. I had no information whatsoever that led me to believe that anything of any interest would be in Mr. Prelude's bed.
And all the information you had at that time was from where you had watched surveillance, right?
No, ma'am.
What else did you have at that time?
Please, we may need to approach.
All right.
Detective Mayo, we recently listened to, on direct, recording of your interview with Mr. Batey, right?
We did.
On June 27th.
We did.
Now, do you know Mr. Gio Black of Student Conduct?
No, I do not personally know him.
Okay. And before you interviewed Mr. Batey, you had not spoken with Mr. Black?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you receive any interview that Mr. Batey did on June 25th?
When?
From anybody?
When?
A statement he may have made on June 25th.
I understand what you're asking me, but are you asking?
Did you ever receive an interview that Mr. Batey did on June 25th from Vanderbilt?
At some point, much later in the investigation, yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. But you received it later after you had already did your interview?
That would be correct.
After your interview with Mr. Batey, he agreed to give you swabs, buccal swabs,
True.
and he agreed to give you his cell phone?
No.
He did not. Oh, you didn't ask him for a cell phone at that point, did you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, sorry about that. And in that we heard, he told you that he never sent videos or pics of that girl. And I believe you asked him towards the end, if that'll help.
I remember asking the question, but I just want to verify my answer before.
No
I answer.
problem. Take your time.
True.
Okay, so that's true.
Yes.
I have no further questions.
All right, read it right. Just very briefly, Detective Mayo, using the police camera, pictures taken, is that a digital camera?
It is.
And what happens to those images? Where do they go?
They're downloaded to my computer.
And then, part of the file?
Yes, that's correct. Downloaded to my computer.
Okay. It's just when you say your computer,
My work computer.
Okay.
Correct.
that's all you're on.
Any recross? All right, thank you, Detective.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness.
State's next witness is Officer Sharon Tilley.
All right.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Sharon Tilley.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Metro Nashville Police Department.
What is your position with the Metro Nashville Police Department?
Right now, I'm actually a forensic technician in the drug identification unit.
And
in the lab.
how long have you been in that position?
I've been there just 2 months now.
And previously before that, how long have you been with the Metro Nashville Police Department?
About 7 years.
And what was your position prior to the last couple of months?
I was a crime scene technician.
Could you explain what that means to be a crime scene technician?
As a crime scene technician, my job duties consisted of responding to scenes and documenting, processing, identifying, and collecting evidence of those scenes.
And is that similar to what people might think of as CSI that they see on TV?
There are similar duties involved.
Are there also many differences in the two?
That's correct.
And as a crime scene technician, are you involved in any of the other steps of the investigation?
My involvement typically just consists of the scene and duties including photographing, possibly fingerprinting, doing measurements of a scene.
And as you've explained, those are your processes. Do you do any of the follow-up? If you are looking for latent fingerprints, do you do any follow-up examination on those prints?
No, I would not.
And do you have any interaction with suspects or interviews or anything of that nature?
I may have limited contact with suspects or victims, just depending on if detectives requested, for instance, clothing or something like that. I might work with them then.
But you don't participate in the interview process or anything of that nature?
No.
Okay. And did you respond to 1900 South Drive, which specifically to dorm room 213 of Gillette Hall on June 27th of 2013?
Yes.
And is that location here in Davidson County?
It is.
And could you explain kind of what did you find when you arrived at the scene? Were there other people there?
There were.
And as a crime scene technician, do you typically work by yourself or do you work with other crime scene technicians?
It varies depending on the scene or the type of scene. I have worked alone as well as I have worked with others.
And when you arrived at the Gillette dorm that day, were there any other technicians there?
There weren't when I arrived, no.
So you were the first crime scene technician?
Yes.
And could you describe that process of when you arrived, what you observed, and what your first steps were?
When I arrived to the scene, I was briefed by the detective on the scene as to what had occurred or alleged to have occurred and what items in the room itself were potentially of value and just some requests for evidence collection and processing there. And I did do a walk around with the detective on the scene, just observing that, and then I did contact my coworkers for assistance at that time.
And who was the detective that was on the scene?
And Detective Mayo.
And do you take any precautions when you're actually processing a scene? Are there any procedures that are implemented?
As far as processing a scene, precautions we take to try to prevent addition or taken away from items at the scene would be wearing gloves or protective booties on our shoes, and we do least invasive processes to more invasive processes. For instance, the walk around, we wouldn't disturb anything, and then we would take photographs documenting where everything is in the scene prior to any movement or marking.
And did you take those precautions on that day?
I did.
And what was the first thing that you began to do as part of processing that scene?
As part of processing the scene, I began by taking photographs of the location overalls as well as mid-range and close-up photos of items within the dorm room.
I have 11 photographs. They've been previously marked A through K as well as a disc. I've shown these to defense counsel. Would defense counsel like to see them again?
Could we please?
Sure. Officer Tilley, does the Metro Nashville Police Department, does crime scene technicians have any other method of taking images other than still photographs?
We do. We have a piece of equipment, and it's called a Panascan, that takes, it takes a photograph, but it's more of a like 360-degree photograph of like an entire room.
And that Panascan, you said it is a still photograph, correct?
Yes.
And would that be similar to if this was a picture, if I took it and just wrapped it around?
Yes.
Is that kind of the viewpoint that you
Yes.
get? Could you describe how that's done? How is that image actually taken?
Yes, the equipment is a laptop in addition to a tripod and a camera that's mounted on the tripod, and the camera does swivel around 360 degrees and takes the picture of the scene. And after that, the image is taken back to the office, and you can actually save it and also manipulate it, maybe add pictures that were in the scene to the scan itself, embed it into the software.
And when, I think you used the word manipulate, but when you're using that term, it's that you can link still photographs to that 360-degree image.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think that was an improper question. Could you describe more specifically what you mean when you said manipulate?
By that, I meant that you can take the picture and you can add additional pictures to it. Just, you can add links where, say I'm looking at the floor, you can add a link to a picture, a close-up picture of the floor into that photo.
And I'm going to pass you these items, which again are 11 photographs in a disc. If you could take a look at them once you receive them and let me know if you recognize those items.
I do.
And what are those items generally?
They are photos of the hallway leading to dorm room 213, as well as dorm 213 and items in the room. And the disc is a copy of the Panascan that was completed.
And the photographs that you have, are those included in that Panascan image?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that these items be admitted as the next number of exhibit, which I believe would be...
Number 20.
Yes, Your Honor. And the photos would be A through K, and I believe the disc would be L. And Your Honor, I would also request permission to publish these images to the jury.
All right.
I have it already loaded on the laptop computer.
Fine.
Will this be on the big screen?
No. It'll be on your monitor. The screen needs to be clear.
Yes. And Officer Tilley, as well as for the court, I'm doing this so that the jurors will know how to open the disc if they so choose to at some point. If you could describe kind of what you do to get to that Panascan movie.
To get to the movie, you would need to open up the software and I'm not sure, is it the output folder?
Do you actually click
Is it
on
start?
the file that's labeled Start in the output folder? Which, Officer Tilley, you just referred to the Panascan as a movie. Could you describe what you mean by that or how that term is used?
That is a term that the software uses as once it's saved onto the computer, it calls it a movie.
And so there's nothing, it's not a video file, it again is that still image that you've previously described.
That's correct.
And do you recognize what's shown on the screen right now?
I do.
And is that the Panascan image of the scene that you responded to on June 27th of 2013?
Yes, that's one of them.
And I'm going to click here. The lower right corner to make it full screen. And again, just for instruction, if you click on the mouse and slightly move it, it actually rotates at 360 degrees around the still image. And do you recognize what's shown in this image?
Yes.
And this blue square here, can you describe what that is?
That is one of the links that's embedded, and it goes to, it's called Movie 2, and it's another Panascan.
How many scans were actually done in this room?
3.
And I am rotating over to the door. Can you describe what is shown here?
This is a link to the floor plan that was posted on the door.
And I've just clicked on that link, which for the record, this floor plan is actually exhibit number 1, which has previously been entered. Officer Tilley, could you describe this image and what, if anything, is on it in the Panascan?
This image shows a layout of the second floor, and in the lower left-hand corner you can see, there you can see the hallway. That would have a picture of the hallway embedded in it, and then the hall in front of 213.
And there's another blue square on the right side. Is that just, again, another link?
I mean, the images on the monitors are okay. I mean, it's when we get to the big screen that's causing the problem. All right, okay.
The question was whether or not the camera behind you, he's zooming in on your screen, and I didn't know if the court wanted to allow that or not.
Yeah, as long as it's on the monitor, unless something is accidentally on the monitor, that's perfectly fine.
And again, Officer Tilley, this is a link that just goes back to the beginning where we were before, correct?
Yes.
And I am going to click on the first photo, which is marked hallway. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is a photo that shows the hallway outside the dorm. You can't see the door to the dorm room in this photo. It is actually around the corner to your left in this photo.
And for the record, this is photo 20A. And I am clicking on the red dot in the middle of this screen. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is another photo of the hallway that was outside the dorm room. I have now positioned myself going around the corner, and it shows room 214 there in the middle of the photo, and room 213 is to the left in the photo.
For the record, this photo is what has previously been entered as 20B. And I am clicking on the red dot in this image. If you could describe what's shown here.
This is an image of the hallway just outside of the dorm room 213.
And for the record, this is exhibit 20C. I'm clicking on the blue area by the door. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a photo of dorm room 213. Here I've opened the door and I'm just taking a photo of what you see when you first open the door inside the room.
And for the record, this photograph is 20D. Clicking the box on the left side of this image, which takes us back to the original scan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've already described that the blue box in the corner takes us to the second scan.
Yes.
I'm going to click there. If you could describe what we're seeing, but if you could also describe what you were doing when you were in this room.
What we're seeing, this is just another scan where the camera has been set up in another corner of the room, and you can see various items of evidence that we ended up collecting, being the towels that are hanging in front of the on either side of the closets, and the floor area, as well as a tote that had an apparent stain on it, an apparent red-brown material.
And you referenced the tote.
I'm referring to the plastic container that's underneath the fan there. It's gray. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to click on, and I am clicking on the red dot in the middle of this screen. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is another photo of the hallway that was outside the dorm room. I have now positioned myself going around the corner, and it shows room 214 and they're in the middle of the photo, and room 213 is to the left in the photo.
For the record, this photo is what has previously been entered as 20B. And I am clicking on the red dot in this image. If you could describe what's shown here.
This is an image of the hallway just outside of the dorm room 213.
And for the record, this is Exhibit 20C. I'm clicking on the blue area by the door. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a photo of dorm room 213. Here I've opened the door, and I'm just taking a photo of what you see when you first open the door inside the room.
And for the record, this photograph is 20D. Clicking the box on the left side of this image, which takes us back to the original scan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've already described that the blue box in the corner takes us to the second scan.
Yes.
I'm going to click there. If you could describe what we're seeing, but if you could also describe what you were doing when you were in this room.
What we're seeing, this is just another scan where the camera has been set up in another corner of the room, and you can see various items of evidence that we ended up collecting, being the towels that are hanging in front of the on either side of the closets, and the floor area, as well as a tote that had an apparent stain on it, an apparent red-brown material.
And you referenced the tote.
I'm referring to the plastic container that's underneath the fan there. It's gray. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to click on the blue triangle that is marked plastic container. Can you describe what's shown in this image?
This is a close-up photo of what I refer to as the tote, but you can see there was apparent stains of red brownish material on the left side of the tote.
And for the record, this image is photograph 20E. And again, this takes us back to that original scan. You had referenced that there were towels that you collected that were shown here. Is that correct?
Yes.
And could you maybe point to your screen and describe specifically which towels you're referring to?
Towels. Okay. Oh, that's the white towel that I collected that was hanging from the hook, and I also collected the green towel here.
I'm going to request that you be passed an item. Once you receive that, if you could take a look at it and let me know if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is that?
This is the, I've identified this bag as the white towel from Hook on the Wall.
And is that the white towel that you just pointed out in this image on the screen?
Yes, it's this one right here.
And could you describe what markings are on the bag that identify it as the same towel that you collected that day?
Yes. When evidence is collected, it is documented the date and time that it's collected, as well as the location being the address and the room number, and it also references the case number and type of case it was.
And do you recognize your personal markings on that item?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that the item be entered as the next exhibit, which is 21.
All right.
And I apologize, I don't believe I asked if defense counsel wanted to view it. I need to have this item passed to Officer Tilley, which if defense counsel can be given the opportunity to view it. Officer Tilley, could you please describe the item that's been handed to you? Do you recognize it?
I do. It is actually the light green towel from Hook on the Wall. And it has the same information as to date and time collected, address, case number, and type of case.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that that item be entered as the next exhibit, which I believe is 22.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I regret to inform the court that I apparently have a small technical issue with the laptop. I believe that we could absolutely get it corrected at the lunch break, but I do feel like I need a few minutes to determine what's wrong with the computer.
Okay. Would you be able to proceed with other direct examination? And
The examination goes through the rest of the scan
okay.
and the images. I'm happy to take a 5-minute break and see if I can correct it.
Well, see if you can do it just right now. Just, I don't want to send everybody out and all of that. it hooked up so
It's properly.
Okay.
It don't hurt.
Light is. Could you tell me about that light up there? Because it keeps on blinking on and off. We need gotta come.
Okay, their lunch.
So it looks like we're gonna have to have an early lunch break, right? I mean, that's fine. We could go ahead and break down for lunch, and, I mean, you gave it a shot, but it's not working at the moment. I'm sure you'll get it fixed, however. Okay,
Yes,
let's
sir.
go ahead and take our lunch break. 1 hour. What?
Ken, court, we have Dr. Lippman in town,
Okay.
and I was just wondering what the court's...
Well,
thoughts are.
the state has requested a jury out. We can do that. We can do it right after we take our lunch break, if that's what you want to do, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, Your Honor.
1 hour, Judge. Yes. Supposed to be a 1 hour lunch recess.
I didn't even see it.
The redundancy.
I just saw, I could tell what it was, I didn't tell it said.
Okay.